We have a lot to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. Just had 3 football games. Not only do you have 3 games, but also a ton of injury news for the games on Sunday. So I want to know in the live chat quickly, please, can you let me know what would you rather us get to first before we start answering questions? And 2, if you can, please send up a prayer for everybody that had to go up against Sam Laporta today, because it is just a brutal spot to know that in all these underdog tournaments, it matters so much what we are doing. And I know I'm not the guy with Laporta, and it is just absolutely brutal. I wish I drafted Sam Laporta at a higher clip. I wish I was smart enough to go out there and know that he was legitimately going to be the best rookie tight end of all time in fantasy football. Yes, that is true, ladies and gentlemen. Freaking nuts. But let's go ahead and honestly, let's recap the games first before we get to what we have with the injury updates. We'll just be very brief here as we update these games. And as I pull them up, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to check out any of these pick'ems for Sunday, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and a Lamar Jackson special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard, ladies and gentlemen. And in the same offense, my favorite pick'em is going to be Keaton Mitchell for fewer than 9.5 rushing attempts. He's never had 10 rushing attempts in a single game in his entire NFL career. It's literally never happened. By far and away, my favorite pick'em. And like I said, if you use code FLOCK, you are going to get that Lamar Jackson more than less than half a total yard as well. But let's go ahead and let's first dive into what we have with the Colts. Not too much to discuss. We'll look at it with the injuries a little later on. Pittman gets injured. Zach Moss gets injured. So maybe you go out there and rush to pick up Trey Sermon. I mean, it's a very tough spot. The reality is probably not super excited about anybody if Pittman and Zach Moss are going to be missing time. Pittman does get the extra day to clear concussion protocol. I really needed Pittman in a few lineups this week. It does definitely suck. Now, going over to Pittsburgh, none of these guys are exciting. Yes, Deontay Johnson has 6 targets. Yes, he has the receiving touchdown. Warren has 6 targets. George Pickens has 7 targets. But Frymuth gets involved just a bit. Horrendous offense. I mean, you can't start anybody here until you get Kenny Pickett back in. You still have the running back splitting 50-50. Yeah, with the Colts, Steelers, really not excited about either of these offenses over the next 2 weeks if you have no Moss, no Pittman. Now, going over to the Bengals, what's very interesting is T. Higgins comes out here and has a big game after the Jamar Chase injury. T. Higgins walks away with 8 targets for 4 receptions, 61 receiving yards, and multiple receiving touchdowns. Now, if Chase misses this next week, T. Higgins will most likely be a must-start guy. Now, if Chase is back, if Chase is fully good to go, probably not super excited to play him. And Chase Brown actually continues to see more and more involvement here. Brown does walk away with 3 receptions, 28 receiving yards, and does have 7 carries at the same time. So it does look like Chase Brown, while you can't start him, he's definitely eating into what you have with Joe Mixon at this point. Now, going over to the Vikings side of things, we are talking about Ty Chandler being that must-start guy, just given the fact not only did you have no Madison, you had no Akers, so he's the only guy left standing. He's Ezekiel Elliott in this offense, right? So, yeah, Ty Chandler going out there, great game. Looking at Jordan Addison, phenomenal performance. Multiple receiving touchdowns, 6 receptions, 111 receiving yards. I'm probably not going to start Jordan Addison next week, if I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, he had 6 targets. They're coming from Nick Mullins. I do think Addison probably comes back down to earth. I mean, from a dynasty perspective, obviously, you're super excited if you have Addison here for the long term. Just very difficult to be super pumped about this offense overall. Jefferson dominates 10 targets. I mean, obviously, Addison comes away with all the fantasy points here, but Jefferson's still going to be the guy that we are starting going forward. Now, going over to the game where there were a zillion points scored, the Detroit Lions. Gibbs, Montgomery, both get there. When you reiterate, you start both running backs every single week, given how good this offensive line is. Gibbs comes away with multiple touchdowns. Gibbs is the guy that you prefer, especially in a full PPR format. Amon-Ra St. Brown ends up hitting our underdog pick'em where we took him for more than 71.5 receiving yards. He hits 112 in the receiving touchdown, 9 targets as well. And Sam Laporta, 3 touchdowns off of 6 targets. 1, it makes me feel good that we had him ranked as tight end 2 overall this week. But 2, it pains me so damn much because I'm going to go ahead and pull up my underdog teams here and just see that I'm probably in a world of pain where we probably don't have Sam Laporta in any of these. So this league I'm looking at, this is a $1,000 buy-in where we've had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jacoby Myers give us relatively decent performances. Outside of that, nobody in this bracket has Sam Laporta. Thank God, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Looks like we dodged Sam Laporta in that bracket. Okay, going over to the other one, we may be out. I mean, this team has 87 points already. They get 31 from Goff, 26 from Laporta. Oh my gosh. So that team is in. Does this team have Laporta? No. This team had a big game from Addison. Just seeing how many teams in my tournaments have Sam Laporta and are absolutely crushing me at this point. We are actually maybe still alive there. It may not be too bad for us. I wish we had a bigger game from Michael Pittman. But nonetheless, Sam Laporta comes out, completely crushes. Does this change much? Nope. I mean, we had him ranked as the tight end 2 this week. Next week, probably have him ranked as the tight end 2 yet again. Don't know if you're putting him ahead of Kelsey, but we tweeted it out earlier. Sam Laporta now is the best tight end ever as a rookie from a fantasy football perspective. Literally. I wish I drafted this guy. I wish I had him on my teams. Better than freaking Hawkinson was on the Lions, which I just literally can't believe that's the case. St. Brown, still start him every week. Yeah, so nothing really changes here in Detroit. Obviously, phenomenal game from Jared Goff with the 5 passing touchdowns. I mean, maybe you call Jared Goff a must-start guy going forward based off the performance that we had. But, I mean, I feel like at this point, we kind of already know what's going down with these offenses, right? We know who to start. We know who to bench. Or at least we have a much better idea than we previously did. Now, let's go over and let's look at all the most recent injury updates that we have, including some of the injury updates that we have from today. Chris Godwin still is going to be a game-time decision. I'm not starting Chris Godwin, if I'm going to be honest with you. Going over to Dalton Schultz, he will play week 15, but you will have no CJ Stroud and no Nico Collins. So you can play Schultz if you want, but I'm not excited about it. I'm not doing it. Jerome Ford not listed on an injury report for week 15. Ford is seeing the majority of the work in Cleveland. You can still start him like we've said all year now. Kareem Hunt's going to have a role, so I'm not super excited about Jerome Ford. Brian Robinson ruled out week 15, so 100% you are starting Antonio Gibson. Very similar to what we were looking at previously with Ty Chandler. Gibson now steps into a role where he'll be a must-start running back. Should be a very high-scoring matchup going up against the Rams. So, yeah, I'm going to be starting Antonio Gibson. I'm not going to be thinking about it twice, especially given the fact that we'll have the usage as a receiver. CJ Stroud's not going to play. Nico Collins will not play. So I know some people want to get cute with it. Say, oh, backup quarterback coming in. They'll lean on the tight end. Let's play Dalton Schultz. I have Dalton Schultz in a few of these key underdog tournaments. So I hope Schultz comes out here and has a great game. But am I banging on it? Probably not. Probably not expecting a massive performance from Dalton Schultz here, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'd probably just bench everybody in Houston. It's going to be horrendous. DJ Moore, good to go week 15. Of course, you can play DJ Moore. Isaiah Pacheco ruled out week 15. If you're looking at Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jarrett McKinnon, these guys split 50-50 this past week. Not super excited about either guy. In a very tough matchup against the Patriots, I'd probably just bench all the running backs in KC. Only guys that are startable, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Rashee Rice. And Pacheco could be back in week 16, but did undergo shoulder surgery. Tyler Higbee is going to be playing week 15. You can start him if you really wanted to. I mean, Darren Waller is going to play. You can start him if you really wanted to. I mean, I would rather not. I mean, maybe if you're playing like a 14-team format, it's going to be important for you. Now, Christian Watson will not be playing. So obviously, Jaden Reed is still good to go. Reed probably be good to go regardless of if Watson was playing or not. But you're more excited about playing Jaden Reed with no Christian Watson. Now, Olave is still a game time decision. We do not have any news on Chris Olave. Now, if Olave is good, I'm just going to play Chris Olave. I am not going to be overthinking it, but completely understand if you wanted to say, well, Mason, come on, man. I mean, he may be a decoy. He may really not be able to command any serious type of volume. And if you wanted to avoid him there, I think you can. Now, Taysom Hill and Shaheed, not listed on the injury report, should be good to go. Taysom's definitely a viable play. Ramondre Stevenson listed out week 15. Ezekiel Elliott is viable, but I want to remind everybody, just because the Pats were good this past week doesn't mean they're going to be good this week. The New England Patriots have one of the worst implied team totals in the entire NFL this week. Should be a very nasty spot. I don't see a ton of touchdown upside for Ezekiel Elliott. So you start him based off volume, but don't get your hopes up too much. Now, Noah Brown should play this week, but I'm not playing Noah Brown with no CJ Stroud. Dalton Kincaid, not listed on the injury report, will be good to go. Obviously, if you do have Dawson Knox in here, you're going to be a little less excited about Kincaid. I'm still starting the guy. Brandon Cooks will be playing. I'm not starting Brandon Cooks. I don't even know why I threw this in here. Yeah, Case Keenum will be the starting quarterback for the Houston Texans in week 15, and he will remain on the waiver wire. Now, Michael Pittman had the concussion, did not return to the game today, as we already mentioned. Like we said, since it's Saturday, you do get the extra game to clear concussion protocol if you are Michael Pittman. For the love of God, I need this guy back for next week, so I really hope he is able to come back. With it being a concussion, obviously, from a real-life perspective, this is a very serious injury. From a fantasy football perspective, it's very much black and white. We know if someone's cleared from concussion protocol, if they play, you start them in fantasy as if nothing ever happened. Now, obviously, if they don't clear concussion protocol, they don't play. So, I mean, it's not like the Olave situation where, oh, he's a game time decision, and if he plays, maybe he's at 50%. No. If Pittman plays next week, you'll play Michael Pittman. And then Zach Moss also not returning. So if you were looking at those backup running backs, Trey Sermon did take over, but it did look like they used them in a running back by committee. So not super excited to run out there, pick up Trey Sermon to play him. Now, Jamar Chase diagnosed with a separated shoulder, as we mentioned. If you have no Chase, then T. Higgins will be viable. Higgins will be viable, obviously looked phenomenal today. Now, Tyreek Hill still expected to be a game time decision for week 15. Very tough matchup. So, I mean, I understand if you want to dramatically lower your expectations for Tyreek, where you want to say, well, Mason, man, if I'm making my own wide receiver rankings, I'm not putting Tyreek Hill wide receiver 1 this week. And that's fine. If you wanted to make your own wide receiver rankings, put it out there on a YouTube video, put it out there on Twitter, whatever you want to do. You don't need to put Tyreek Hill wide receiver 1. If you're playing on DraftKings, if you're in any type of DFS tournament, then of course you need to go out there and look at Tyreek with the same projection that he otherwise would be. But from a regular fantasy football perspective, does anything change here? No, you still start the guy. So if you're still starting the guy, I mean, what are we really talking about at the end of the day? Just monitor. If he's good to go, put him in your lineup. If he's not good to go, you put him on the bench. Now, if he's not good to go, I will say Jalen Waddle is going to be a must-start guy, even if it's a very tough matchup going up against the Jets. Now, going over to Rodgers, this is something that I don't even know. Like, every single week, for whatever reason, we need an Aaron Rodgers update. Now, if Aaron Rodgers ends up coming back, I will be willing to eat crow, and I'll be willing to say, oh, okay, well, yeah, thank God we are getting these Aaron Rodgers updates. I guess that's an incredible story that he's able to come back the same season from a torn Achilles. One of the coolest stories ever, if he does come back. But at the same time, if he doesn't come back, I will be extremely annoyed from the fact that we had to get updated over and over and over again. Aaron Rodgers for him to never play. But hell, maybe he's going to get cleared. Maybe he will be back. I don't know. We'll see. If he's back, obviously fire up Garrett Wilson, fire up Breece Hall. It's not going to be this week. Would be next week. Now, Devon Achane still listed as questionable. I know a lot of people are expecting Achane to be out. If Achane plays, I'm not going to be ranking him as you would if he was fully healthy. I don't think you want to be super excited about Achane. I'm probably going to go ahead and instead fire up Raheem Mostert everywhere that we can. Now, Aaron Jones, still questionable. Aaron Jones has been practicing all week, and A.J. Dillon is questionable as well. So if you were to have no A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones were to be good to go, then I'd say at that point, then 100% you want to go through and you want to start Aaron Jones. If both guys are active, then at that point, I'd say I'd probably rather bench both players, especially in the playoffs, right? We want to be way more selective and have a much higher bar of who we are playing in the playoffs. You have no bye weeks. I mean, you should have better options, especially if you made it to the playoffs. So I probably wouldn't be super excited about playing Aaron Jones, given the fact that earlier in the season, we did see them be very, very reluctant to just immediately give him that full workload, his first, second back end. But I think that should be about it for the injury updates and the games today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that we are able to help you out in terms of submitting your starting lineup. If not, we around to answer questions for the rest of the night and tomorrow morning. So let me go ahead and pull up the questions. And as I do that, let me remind you, if you have not done so already, please hit that like button. And if you wanted to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% a positive match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and a Lamar Jackson special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard with promo code FLOCK. Now, I'm going to reiterate, I know y'all hate it, but it's my favorite pick'em of the week. We are going to be going with Keaton Mitchell for fewer than 9.5 rushing attempts. Everybody's favorite player. He's splitting the backfield three ways with Justice Hill, Gus Edwards. He's never had 10 rushing attempts ever. So yeah, I'm going to go fewer than 9.5 for this week. Now let's go ahead and let's move this around. Jacob says Pittman next week. Yeah, if Pittman plays, I'll play Pittman. Of course, the question is, does he play? Victoria says Diggs or Evans played Pittman, and we have Lamb. I'm going to go ahead. I will play Stephon Diggs. I think it's going to be a super exciting, high-scoring game here. Obviously, Evans is exciting as well, though. Jeff says, need a running back and a flex, White, Mostert, and Ridley. We're going to be going with both White and Mostert with really no hesitation. Now, Dave says, pick two for the flex and a full PPR. Henry, Zeke, Achane, Aaron Jones, Reed. Should I be worried with the Achane injury and Jones being my only running back this week? I'd be planning on Zeke and Henry. If we just had to pick two players here, I'm going to be going with Zeke and Henry. If we had to pick two running backs and a flex, I'm going to go Zeke, Henry, then Achane if he plays. I mean, I would be worried about Achane just a bit. I mean, if you're going to be comparing him to someone like Ezekiel Elliott, who will for sure get every single touch. The thing is with Achane, I mean, he may end up playing, right? But even if he does play, there's a chance that he's just at 50%. Now, AJ says, starting Kyler this week, Geno, Tua, Baker, Carr, best available on the waiver wire. Should I play one of them instead? Also, two flex spots between Puka, Olave, Hall, and Zeke. Puka will for sure be the guy in a full PPR format. Don't need to go Olave, given the fact that he's not been cleared yet. I'm going to go Puka and Hall. And then I would just start Kyler if it's a 4-point passing touchdown format. Obviously, it's a very tough matchup against the Niners, but he can still go out there and have a fine game, given their rushing upside. Now, Luke says, 14-team PPR, pick two. JSN, Gabe, Michael Wilson. Looking good with your advice with the Raiders and Gibbs. Normally go Tigers, but we're hooking right now. Hook 'em, my friend. Appreciate you. And congrats on the strong start earlier this week. We're going to go JSN and Gabe Davis. Obviously, Michael Wilson looks to be in a fine spot in that he will have somewhat of a role here, but I don't necessarily think that we need to be going for the stack and correlating our lineup when we're already ahead of the competition. We want to more so just focus in on the floor of this team. And obviously, you could have just an absolute meltdown from the cards here going up against the Niners. Gabe says, do we start Odell, Noah Brown, or Zay Jones? Much love, my friend. It's close. Zay Jones, 14 targets last week. Odell looks like he's getting involved with no Andrews. I could go back and forth between the two guys. I'm not going Noah Brown with no Stroud. I may end up going Zay Jones. He had 14 targets. My only hesitation is it's a very tough matchup. Now, Jimmy says Zeke or Olave. I'm going to go Zeke. And then Kincaid or Njoku. I will go with Kincaid, my friend. Eric says Diggs, Smith, Evans, Reed. We got to start three. We will be benching Jaden Reed out of these options, even with Reed looking great as of late. Now, Timeout Sports, always happy to see us. Says Mason, 4 leagues, 4 playoffs. Thanks, dude. Hell yes. Need flex help. 12-team non-PBR. Connor, Hunt, Dylan, Gabe Davis, or Hollywood. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, my friend. Non-PBR format, we're going to be chasing touchdown upside. If A.J. Dillon plays and you have no Aaron Jones, then I'll go ahead and I'll play A.J. Dillon If not, then we're just going to go ahead and in a non-PPR format, we'll take James Conner and set up a prayer that somehow the Cardinals are able to move the ball down the field against the Niners. Now, iShine, always happy to see it, says, my guy, so if Aaron Jones plays, should we start him in the flex over likely or not? I 100% would. I think you have to go through and play Aaron Jones over Isaiah Likely in the flex. I mean, Likely is definitely a viable guy to go to as like a low-end tight end one for your tight end slot. However, I mean, if you're going to be looking at what you have instead for a flex, I just have no interest for a flex there, if I'm to be honest with you. Now, Go Bill says, would you play Hopkins over Olave if he plays? I think that's right there. I think Olave has higher ceiling. Hopkins probably has higher floor. I'm not super pumped about Hopkins now that you have no Stroud, however, just because the possibility that they get into a shootout in the second half is a little bit diminished. Now, Laker Niners says 14 team at BBR start 2. Brees, Kamara, and Cook. I'm going to go Brees and Kamara. I'm going to understand where you're coming from with James Cook, with Cook being great as of late. Just a little bit of a tough matchup here going up against Dallas. Now, Jeff says start Singletary, Foreman, or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm going to go CEH now that you have no CJ Stroud. Also, Schultz, Likely, or Taysom. If it is a non-PPR format, it's Taysom easily. If it is a full PPR format, I think you make an argument for Likely. Non-PPR, you go Taysom no matter what, though. Now, Dave says, would you start Aaron Jones over Achane if Jones is the only running back in Green Bay? If Jones is the only running back in Green Bay and Achane looks like he's banged up as well, then yes, I would go ahead and I would start Aaron Jones. But obviously, that's operating under the assumption that you have no A.J. Dillon in this offense. If A.J. Dillon were to play, then it would just be the exact opposite. We're going to roll the dice with Achane, just with Achane being so much of a better running back at this point of their careers. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I really hope that we are able to help you out for the games tomorrow. And I want to reiterate, if you have not done so, hit that like button. Subscribe if you play fantasy football. And if you wanted to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, plus a Lamar Jackson special pick'em more than less than half a total yard. And my favorite pick'em will be Keaton Mitchell for fewer than 9.5 rush attempts as well. Last question. Young Dolly says, just happened to play against Laporta and Gibbs. Also sat out Zamir and Goff. Brutal. I am so damn sorry to hear that, my friend. I mean, going up against Laporta is bad enough. To throw on the extra pain of having to go up against Gibbs is just nasty. I'm sorry. Yeah, but thank you again for everybody hanging out with us. I really do appreciate y'all. And really hope I get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow morning. And if you're not able to make it, I'm really wishing you the best of luck for the rest of your Week 15 fantasy football playoff matchup.